Data from the National Bureau of Statistics shows Nigeria's total foreign trade in goods hit just over 12 trillion naira in the first quarter of this year, with a slight improvement in merchandise trade attributed to marginal increase in exports and import trade. Bamidele Ayemibo, export consultant, joins me now to unpack the numbers. Bamidele, thank you for taking the time out to join us today.
Thank you very much, Esther. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. So let's get right to it. Nigeria's foreign trade, we're seeing obviously a 17.5% drop from what we had in Q1 of 2022. But I'd like to just get your own reading of this data, looking at, of course, the top goods and where we saw some of the pain points for Nigeria.
We have some expectation, normal expectation, as usual. That are not surprising, but we have some good news and, of course, some bad news. Bad news because NEPC, CBN are doing a lot, trying to put a lot together to be able to grow export. But some of the data coming out are showing some decline that are not too palatable. I mean, it's Q1, so let's see what happens for the rest of the year. So US and Netherlands are our top import-export trading partners, and that remains. Crude still remains the major foreign exchange earner, of course, as expected. China still holds about 25% as the source of import of Nigerian goods. That's expected. I mean, that sometimes it's even up to 30%. Major shipment by sea, 98% of our export is by sea, and 94% of import by sea. Of course, air is 5%. The fact that exports by air is also very low, less than 1%, also very instructive. But like I said, they're expected. The good news, the fact that for the first time we have soybeans as a major agro commodity export from Nigeria. That for me is a sharing news, because if you look at all the major export commodity from Nigeria, agro commodity, from cashew to cocoa to ginger to gum arabic to sesame seed, all of them put together are now up to $30 billion. But soybeans alone is about $60 billion. And for many years, we've not been able to do very well in soybeans export, but now we're beginning to see being number 4 next to cashew, cocoa, and sesame seed. I think that's a very good news. Let's hope we're able to keep that up. Year-on-year growth of solid minerals, both Q-on-Q growth and year-on-year growth, 23%, 32% is commendable. For agri, 64% Q-on-Q growth and year-on-year growth, 38% for agri, also commendable. But the bad news, the fact that we have a decline of 8% in Q1 when you compare to 2022, I'm not sure CB and NEPC will be happy with that news. But like I said, it's Q1, so we still have Q2, we still have Q3, we still have Q4. So let's hope that we see an increase. But another bad news for me is the fact that oil and gas export increased to about 90%. It used to be 84, 85, 86, now 90% in Q1. That's not a good news. We are talking about diversification.
Yeah, if I could just come in here also. I mean, speaking of oil and gas, Nigeria also imported petrol worth 1.49 trillion, accounting for 26.8% of total imports during the period. I mean, going forward, if we do see, when the Dangote refinery comes on stream and we do see reduction in that, how is that going to change the numbers or distribution in terms of what we are importing? How is that going to impact data following that?
The reason why the CBN government is excited about Dangote refinery is because of what you just said. It's definitely going to save us a lot on PMS. I mean, PMS constitutes more than 20, I think about 30%, 20 something to 30% of the total volume of import, in terms of import. So it's consuming a lot of foreign exchange. We're going to definitely save a lot of foreign exchange by the time Dangote refinery starts and we begin to buy from Dangote. I'm not sure of modality yet. If it's going to be selling to Nigeria I'm hoping that it's selling to Nigeria in Naira, of course, because it's operating in a free trade zone, and Nigeria currently don't have a very clear, because even though it's Nigeria geographically, economically it's not Nigeria, so the operation around that I'm not too clear about it, because if that good is coming to Nigeria, the people importing supposed to open a Form M,
right,
as if they're importing from offshore. So the dynamics around that is still not very clear, but whichever way we look at it, it's going to send Nigeria some foreign exchange, definitely.
Right. Is there a plan that spells out perhaps, for example, the top 5 or top 3 commodities, particularly agro, that Nigeria wants, to export? Is there such a document or a plan? And also and secondly, our trading partners, of the top 5, there is still no African country on that top 5. You and I had this conversation the last time. What needs to change for this to happen?
Now, very important question. That's actually one of the things that is necessitating AFCFTA. And it's important for us to know that majority of our exports are commodity, agro-commodity, agro-commodity and solid minerals. And our raw material are going to Europe and Asia, and of course America. So Africa is not going to be buying raw material from us as much, because Nigeria is better than many African countries. I mean, as bad as Nigeria is, we are still number 14, 15 in competitive index, and number 4 or 5 within West Africa. So we're still better than a lot of African countries. So what Africa is going to buy from us are things they need for survival, knowing fully well the majority of African countries are living for survival. It's a low-income economy, and the majority being low income and some being lower middle income. So food item, agro products, food, processed agro products, fast-moving consumer goods are the things we are going to be able to sell in Africa. And that's why we need to join the Guided Trade Initiative. There is a program, a meeting holding next week by the National Action Committee on AFCFTA to be able to get Nigeria into the Guided Trade Initiative. Because trade has started under AFCFTA with the Guided Trade Initiative, with Ghana, Rwanda, and a number of other African countries already trading. So maybe that will be able to change that narrative, like you said. In terms of top agro commodity, I know there are priority areas. Cocoa, cashew, ginger, shea butter, palm oil are priority areas. But it's good that we are now seeing that we need to also include, because if our goal is to get more foreign exchange, then we should go for commodities that have high demand that Nigeria produce, of which the soya beans being one of them, and more importantly, even corn being one of them, even though Nigeria prohibits corn export, but corn demand is about 30 billion, much more than cocoa demand in the world.
So finally, in terms of policy direction, in terms of our exports, trade, I've been asking analysts across different sectors. So I'm going to ask you, what kind of policies would you like to see or are expedient at a time like this to help us boost, especially our exports and what we've been talking about now, major commodities, agro-commodities?
I would strongly recommend that the president gives his ambassador a matching order, that their KPI is going to be based on how much export they attract from Nigeria to where they are. Our ambassadors are not doing enough in terms of helping our export to grow. They don't even see it as one of the things they need to do. I'm looking at a situation in which, imagine the president telling them, your KPI is the volume of export, the growth. You must increase the growth of export to your country as much as did. That means you need to look for market for Nigerian product. If we can do that, maybe that will contribute a lot to our export. But more importantly, is the fact that we need to grow the number of exporters in Nigeria. Number of exporters in Nigeria is lower than Ghana, lower than South Africa, lower than Cote d'Ivoire. Nigerian exporter is not up to 4,000 companies registered. Those exporting every year is about 1,000 plus. But registered are not up to even 5,000. Ghana is about 10,000. Cote d'Ivoire is much more than that. South Africa is over 40,000. But Nigeria needs to grow the number of exporters. And I strongly believe if we do that and help them, particularly the manufacturers and SMEs, in terms of readiness and de-risk the sector, we'll be able to grow exports significantly. And in de-risking the sector, I would strongly recommend we consider export credit insurance. Next-in banks should take export credit insurance, covering not just covering country risk, but also counterparty risk, to be able to encourage banks to be able to invest and finance exporters in that sector.